Holy architecture, rising in the vast expanse, infinite glory, breaking through the silence. You are the high place where the thunder meets the grace, King of the mountain, crown the heavy heart with light. Every knee shall bow before the height of your throne. The valley floor is fading as we climb the steep ascent. Shadows dissolve within the clarity of your presence. We abandon every anchor that tied us to the dust, weightless in the wonder of a love that cannot fail. From the summit we behold the triumph.
What happens when the waiting ends? The door opens, and the mystery of the wedding moves from hidden preparation into open joy. The wedding of the Messiah is not only about the chamber, the lamp, the cry in the night, or the entrance of those who were made ready. It also moves into feast, rejoicing, and the public joy of covenant fulfillment. And once that layer begins to open, Scripture shows that redemption was never meant to end only in rescue. It was always moving toward joy, openly shared. The wedding of the Messiah does not end at the threshold. It does not end with the cry in the night. It does not end with the lamp that remained burning, or even with the entrance of those who were prepared. All of these are holy and necessary parts of the mystery, but they are not the end of its movement. Beyond the chamber, beyond the waiting, beyond the hidden discipline of readiness, there opens another radiant layer, and that is the feast, the rejoicing and the public joy of covenant fulfillment. This matters because the wedding mystery in Scripture does not move only toward nearness in secret. It also moves toward joy made visible. It moves toward celebration. It moves toward a gladness that is no longer guarded in hiddenness but openly shared. And for this reason, the feast becomes one of the most beautiful revelations in the whole pattern. It tells us that the covenant was never only about correction, never only about endurance, never only about surviving the night. It was always moving toward joy. That is why the feast carries such spiritual depth. A feast in Scripture is never merely food set before people. It is the sign of abundance, completion, gathering, rest, gladness, and the public manifestation of blessing. It says that what has been awaited has now come into a form that can be shared. It says that what was once a promise has opened into participation. It says that covenant faithfulness has not only preserved the people through the night, but has brought them into a joy prepared for them. And this is why the wedding of the Messiah becomes so radiant at this point. The people are no longer only watching. They are no longer only preparing. They are no longer only keeping lamps in the dark. They are no longer only standing at the threshold. Now the mystery opens into celebration. Now what was guarded in waiting begins to flower into rejoicing. Now what was prepared in hiddenness begins to stand in the light of public gladness. This is one of the great beauties of the biblical story. Redemption is not only deliverance from what is wrong, it is also an entrance into what is whole. It is not only release from exile, it is also participation in covenant joy. It is not only the removal of guilt, it is the opening of the celebration. The feast reveals that the purpose of God is not merely to save from loss, but to bring his people into fullness, into shared gladness, into the joy of fulfilled belonging. And this gives deeper meaning to everything that came before. The chamber now appears not only as a place of hidden nearness, but as the preparation for public joy. The lamp now appears not only as the sign of faithful waiting, but as the witness that the people were guarded for this very celebration. The cry in the night now appears not only as a summons, but as the first sound of approaching joy. The entrance now appears not only as crossing a threshold, but as the beginning of participation in what had been lovingly prepared. This is why rejoicing matters so much in the wedding mystery. Rejoicing is not decoration added at the end. It belongs to the meaning of fulfillment itself. The covenant does not merely reach its goal in silence. It reaches its goal in gladness. It reaches its goal in a joy that can finally be seen, heard, and shared. The rejoicing reveals that what God prepares is not barren, not cold, not mechanical. It is living, abundant, and full of beauty, and because of that, the public nature of the feast becomes very important. What was once concealed is now openly honored. What was once carried in inward longing is now publicly celebrated. What was once known in the hidden disciplines of waiting is now manifested in joy before all. This public dimension is essential because the wedding of the Messiah is not only a private consolation, it is the open vindication of covenant faithfulness. It is the visible revelation that the waiting was not in vain, the promise was not empty, and the bridegroom has not forgotten the joy he prepared from the beginning. This is why the feast carries both intimacy and witness together. It is intimate because it belongs to union, belonging, and shared joy. But it is also public because the beauty of covenant fulfillment is meant to be seen. The gladness is not hidden forever. The faithfulness that was tested in secret does not remain forever without open honor. The feast reveals that divine joy has the power to manifest. It comes into view. It stands in the open. It declares that the mystery has reached a new stage, not only promised, not only awaited, but fulfilled in celebration. And this helps us understand why Scripture so often joins joy with gathering. At the feast, the people are not scattered. They are gathered. They are brought together into the order of rejoicing. This is the opposite of exile, the opposite of separation, the opposite of the lonely night of waiting. The feast says that covenant joy creates a holy gathering. It draws together what had long been prepared. It manifests shared gladness. It opens the joy of the bridegroom in a way that does not remain isolated but fills the whole atmosphere with celebration. This also means that the feast carries honor. In the wedding mystery, joy is not casual excitement, it is ordered gladness. It is rejoicing that belongs to covenant dignity. It is a celebration of the beauty of what has been fulfilled. This is why the feast is not shallow. It is rich with meaning. Every earlier stage of the journey gives depth to this joy. The people rejoice differently because they have known the night. They rejoice differently because they have guarded the lamp. They rejoice differently because they have waded through concealment and crossed the threshold of entrance. Their joy has substance. Their gladness is filled with remembrance. And that remembrance makes the feast even more beautiful. The joy is not thin. It carries the memory of covenant cost, the memory of preparation, the memory of longing, the memory of divine faithfulness through the hidden hour. This is why celebration in Scripture often feels so deep. It is not joy floating above reality. It is joy rising out of fulfilled promise. It is gladness that knows what it has come through. It is rejoicing that understands the value of what has now been openly given. This is why the wedding feast of the Messiah speaks so powerfully to the heart. It tells us that the end of the story is not emptiness. It is not endless tension. It is not a perpetual delay. It is joy brought into manifestation. It is covenant fulfillment becoming public gladness. It is the revelation that the one who called, prepared, guarded, and brought in his people also shares joy with them openly. The feast, therefore, reveals the generosity of divine love. It shows that the bridegroom not only secures a people and brings them near, he brings them into rejoicing. And here the contrast between hiddenness and openness becomes especially beautiful. In the earlier layers, much was veiled. The chamber carried concealed nearness. The waiting carried inward discipline. The lamp and oil spoke of hidden readiness. But now the atmosphere changes. The joy is not only inwardly guarded, it breaks forth. It becomes visible. It becomes communal. It becomes part of the radiant witness of covenant fulfilled. This does not erase the beauty of hidden preparation. It crowns it. This is why the feast is not a separate subject from the earlier layers. It is their flowering. It is what the hidden work was preparing for. It is what the chamber leaned toward. It is what the cry in the night announced. It is what the entrance opened into. Every stage of the mystery now pours into this new revelation. The joy of the bridegroom is no longer only awaited. It is shared. And this teaches us something profound about the nature of God's purpose. The purpose of God is not merely to preserve a people in endless preparation. It is to bring them into fullness. It is to bring them into joy that corresponds to his own covenant faithfulness. The Messiah's wedding shows that salvation is not only about escaping darkness. It is about participation in light, in gladness, in abundance, in the beauty of what divine love has made ready. This is why public joy is such an important phrase here. The joy is public, not because it becomes superficial, but because it becomes manifest. It is no longer hidden in promise alone. It stands in fulfillment. It can be seen. It can be known. It can be celebrated openly. The wedding mystery, therefore, tells us that there is a day when the gladness of the covenant will no longer be carried only as inward hope. It will stand as open joy. It will become a visible reality in God's order. And this gives the heart tremendous hope. The people are not being formed only for discipline. They are being formed for joy. They are not being taught watchfulness only so that they may survive the night. They are being guarded for the hour of rejoicing. They are not being brought through covenant preparation only to remain forever at the threshold. They are being brought into the feast. The public joy of covenant fulfillment tells us that the story moves toward the openly revealed beauty. So the wedding of the Messiah reaches a radiant unveiling here. The bridegroom is not only the one who called, he is the one who rejoices. The people are not only those who waited, they are those who enter gladness. The feast is not only an image of reward, it is the manifestation of fulfilled belonging. It is covenant joy no longer veiled, no longer deferred, but openly shared in the beauty of divine order. And this is why the feast, the rejoicing, and the public joy of covenant fulfillment belong together so perfectly. The feast gives form to abundance. The rejoicing gives voice to fulfillment. The public joy manifests what had long been hidden in promise and preparation. Together, they reveal that the wedding of the Messiah is not merely the end of waiting, it is the beginning of celebrated fullness. And from here, another beautiful layer stands ready to open, because once the feast has been seen as the public joy of covenant fulfillment, the question of witness and manifestation begins to grow even brighter. The joy that is openly shared also becomes testimony. The fulfillment itself becomes revelation. And that opens the way for the next great layer of the mystery. There is another beautiful layer here that begins to shine with great radiance, and it is the layer of the mystery made openly known. Because once the feast is opened, once the rejoicing stands in the light, once covenant joy is no longer carried only in hope but shared in fulfillment, the wedding of the Messiah begins to reveal something even greater. It reveals that what God prepares in hiddenness, he also brings forth in glory. This is one of the most beautiful movements in the whole mystery. The long season of waiting does not end only in personal joy. It ends in revelation. The hidden work of covenant, the guarded oil, the quiet readiness, the chamber, the cry in the night, the entrance into what was prepared, all of it now stands beneath a brighter light. What was once carried inwardly is no longer concealed. It has become part of the open splendor of fulfilled union, and this is why the mystery reaches such a radiant height here. The wedding of the Messiah is not only about promise, not only about preparation, not only about entrance into joy. It is about the unveiling of what divine faithfulness has brought to completion. The beauty of the feast, the gladness of the rejoicing, the order of the celebration, all of it bears witness that the covenant has reached its appointed fullness. This is why beauty matters so much in this final movement. Beauty here is not ornament without meaning. It is the radiance of fulfillment. It is the visible form of covenant joy. It is the splendor of what has been made ready by the bridegroom and brought into open honor. What was once veiled in longing now stands in revealed glory. What was once known only in promise now shines in manifestation, and this gives the whole story its crown. The people were not prepared only to endure. They were prepared to be brought into a joy that would one day stand in the light. They were not taught watchfulness only to survive the night. They were taught watchfulness because the night was leading toward an unveiling. They were not called merely to remain faithful in secret. They were being formed for the day when the faithfulness of God would no longer be hidden in promise, but displayed in fulfillment. This is why the Messiah's wedding becomes such a powerful revelation of divine purpose. It shows that God not only calls, but also cleanses, guards, and brings near. He also reveals the beauty of what he has completed. He brings his work into splendor. He causes what was prepared in wisdom to stand in glory. He does not leave the covenant in hiddenness forever. He brings it into open joy, open honor, and open beauty. And here the mystery becomes very deep, because the joy itself now becomes part of the revelation. The gladness is not separate from the truth. It reveals the truth. It shows that the bridegroom was faithful. It shows that the waiting was not empty. It shows that the preparation was not in vain. It shows that the covenant was moving toward something real, something radiant, something worthy of all the hidden years that came before it. This is why the mystery's final beauty carries such weight. It is not a shallow celebration. It is fulfilled belonging. It is not passing delight. It is the open splendor of the covenant brought to completion. It is the revelation that the one who began the work of calling also brings that work into glory. And in that glory, the whole path begins to make sense. The waiting, the chamber, the lamp, the cry, the entrance, the feast, everything was moving toward this unveiled fullness. So the mystery does not end in silence. It ends in revealed joy. It ends in beauty brought into the light. It ends in the open honor of the King and the public splendor of what his covenant love has accomplished. And this is why the wedding of the Messiah is so radiant in Scripture. It tells us that redemption is not only rescue, not only preparation, not only approach, but fulfillment revealed in glory. And this is why the wedding of the Messiah is such a profound mystery in Scripture, because it leads from promise to preparation to nearness to joy, and finally to fulfillment revealed in glory. What was once guarded and waiting does not remain hidden forever. The bridegroom brings it into the light. And in our next video, we will continue into another radiant layer of this mystery, opening the royal beauty, the public honor, and the splendor of fulfilled union. Thank you, family, for being here. If this teaching helped you, please like, comment, and share. It truly helps this message reach those who are seeking. To our new subscribers, welcome. And if you'd like to go deeper, we invite you to join as a member. The link is in the description and on our homepage. We are praying for you and standing with you in the light of Messiah, He and Messiah, She. If you'd like to support the ministry, you can visit our store or bless our dear brother Michael via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below, which also includes a link to our second store with new designs. Thank you for your love and encouragement, and stay tuned for the next video. May the spirit of wisdom and peace rest upon you always.